Hello there, welcome to this week's Devar Torah. My name is Lexi Rudley. I am a third-year student, final year student at Stony Brook University, at least for me. I'm a major in political science and I minor in biology, and I'm also the president of the Jewish Student Association. And also, we have a little guest here today. Her name is Jovi. She will be joining us and helping us with the Parsha. So, the Parsha this week is Parsha Arei. And so, it covers a bunch of stuff. It covers kosher living, kosher food. It covers slavery in the Torah. It covers a little bit about idolatry, as it seems that many Parshas do, and about following false prophets. Also talks about three major celebrations in the Torah. Sukkot, Shavuot, and Passover. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Let's get into it. So basically the people, Moses starts off with this whole thing about a blessing and a curse, right? A blessing are these commandments and following them is a blessing and it will bring you great things. And then not following them, the curse in question, not so great for you. We'll start off a little bit with the kosher living piece of it. So really what they talk about first is not shaving your head or shaving or cutting your hair during mourning. And I think this is really important because, right, when people are grieving, you're not thinking about your state of beauty. You're not thinking about, all this. You're thinking about, the loved one you may have lost. And I think that's really important that the Torah kind of outlines that. So going into it, we talk about kosher foods. And so a lot of where kosher foods and this idea of kosher foods comes from was things that were safe at that time to eat, right? So, pork wasn't the most cleanly thing to eat at the time. We think about, seafood that isn't kashrut. Like we think about that, like those weren't the cleanest things to eat at the time either. Also, like many other things weren't the best to eat at the time. And so there was no FDA back in the days of the Torah when the Torah was, being played out. So this is kind of a replacement for that and to keep the people safe. Again, when he talks about a blessing and a curse, if you're going to eat something that has a disease or something like that, especially that time when the immune systems weren't as strong as the humans today, that might be your last meal. So, So we also talk about do not anything that has died a natural death. I think that's a big part of it as well. Like you don't know what something has died from if it's died a natural death. Again, you don't know what it died from, even if you did kill it yourself. But still goes back to that blessing and a curse thing. So we kind of move on a little bit. We talk about debt as well in the Torah. Every seventh year you shall practice a release. Every kinsman creditor shall release from his hand his debt. So the debtor may no longer claim payment because of this release for the sake of God. And so I think this is really interesting because this is something that not necessarily people follow today. It's one of those picking and choosing things that we all pick and choose from the Torah, Christians, the Bible, etc., etc. What's interesting is that people shouldn't have to be in debt for more than 7 years. Because it's such a burden and all of those things. And I think that's a really interesting point in the Torah that we don't talk about that much. And so as well, they talk about slavery. I guess is a type of debt as well. I'm morally opposed to slavery, as I hope many people are as well. I hope everyone is as well. And it talks about how if you are to have a slave, free them in your Hebrew slave in the 7th year, but do not send away empty-handed, which I think is very interesting. And we talk about reparations a lot. When you think of slavery, when a slave is freed, they have nothing. So I guess, hypothetically, it's better than leaving them with nothing. You shouldn't have slaves at all, but here in the Torah, they're discussing this. To continue on, talking about Sabbath on the seventh day, keeping Passover, keeping Shavuot, keeping Sukkot. So we talk about here, keep the Pesach offering to your God. So they kind of also outline Passover, Shavuot, and Sukkot in this Parsha. So that's also really interesting. If you want to go dive into more of that, read all up. Really great. So kind of some final questions to think about of this week's Parsha. What are some blessings and curses that you believe God has given you? I don't know if this will be posted on Facebook. Comment below. Post on YouTube. Comment below. Would love to know. Love to hear it. And Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Have a great weekend.